Hello friends, I'm Gosia from Cosmic Agency. Let's go with the next episode of Minitopics. For the new subscribers, the series of mini topics that I do sometimes is simply sharing with you pieces of conversations that maybe were not long enough to go into a separate video. But because I want to share it anyway, but it's too short for a video, so I have the series of mini topics, a variety of different topics in one video. And they are usually not aligned with each other. They are just, random threads of information. So here today I'm going to have a question from someone. The ETs are helping, supposedly, according to some theories, because they went through the same thing in their past. Is this why the ETs are helping? So that's going to be answered. Then we will talk about, it's Robert's question about one of these AIs, softwares that talk to people and respond. And then it went into another subject with Yaski, about etheric bombs. What are the etheric bombs? I am curious if you would guess. Okay, then the next little topic about Taygeta, something about their history. Then soul, multiple souls, multiverses. What does Yaski think about all this issue of multiverses? And why is this contradiction here? Some people say multiverses, and we keep saying it's just one universe. Okay, then the question from Dr. Alex in Spain about bacteria, and then about gnomes in forests. As you see, totally disconnected subject here. And then someone asked about Voynich manuscript. I'm not sure if it's read Voynich or Voynich manuscript. What does Yaski think about this? And then someone had a question about, how we say that the Pleiades are 440 light years away. Is that even a correct way to say it? Is this way to measure distance even correct? And then as the last topic, or the pre-last topic, I'll mention the cricket powder in the food, and you should be aware of that. Okay, well, let's start. First topic is coming from someone's question about whether ETs are helping, not just Taygetans, but ETs in general, although that help is another topic here. As you know, it's multi-layered and very complex. But let's say, so ETs are helping because they themselves in their history went through something similar, and now it's like they are helping another race go through the same. What does Yaski says? Well, Yaski says this. They definitely haven't gone through the same thing from a strict point of view. That's why Earth is so special. However, one civilization or another may have gone through similar isolated events. For example, Taygeta was created by expansion and immigration, like countless countries or cultures on Earth. Andromedan, it is said that they destroyed their planet, and that is why they have to live in large biosphere ships that their Arcturian friends helped to build. Then, for example, Alpharetta Centauri, it is said to have been created by liberation of a large number of people from other planets of Lyrian inhabitants, mainly from Earth, but also from other cultures. So there are similarities here with what could be happening or what happened here on Earth. So as Yaski says, there is some truth to that statement, but it's not exactly as on Earth. They haven't gone through the same what we are going through here. However, because this is Yaski and she always offers another more expanded point of view, from another view, more expanded point of view, what happens on one planet is energetically interconnected with all the others. I mean all. And in an existential space outside of all time, what happens on Earth is what happens on any other planet or place. Also explained with the principle of non-locality. And this reminds me here of how the suns and wormholes are all connected. They are this network of suns, and what happens in one sun is reflected in another. But, Yasky says, helping, it is up to us to help because we want to. But then we want to because we have clear energetic connections and links to Earth, having been here many times before, living in the case of many Taygetan starseeds and step-downs. And also the Andromedans say that the Pleiadian races have karma to pay with Earth for events like the destruction of Tiamat, even though it wasn't Pleiadians or the Taygetans who were involved with that, but it was a big group of Federation races. Anyway, Yasky here clarifies that this explanation is Andromedan only. Okay, so that's the answer to this question. Now, the next topic came from Robert asking Yasky about what she thinks about all these AIs, softwares that are coming out lately, like ChatGPT based on another AI, Lambda, where, for example, students now doing their work in seconds. Do you think, Robert is asking, do you think the elites would allow a conscious AI to interact with the public? Okay, Yasky responds. What I see is that AI for the public is already advancing to invasive levels. I see dehumanization progressing because although it could be used for positive applications, like Taygeta's AI, which is non-invasive, on Earth it will only be used to further control and exploit the population. It can be programmed to give the people what they, the Cabal, want it to give them. And it will always be an instrument of control, never free. So yes and no, they will never give them free and complete AI with access to everything, but a caricature imposed to further guide human perception in the direction they want. And that direction is towards transhumanist robotization. And here Robert is saying, so it looks like this kind of AI will be something extremely dangerous. And yes, he says yes, because what comes out of it is not free and is controlled by the Satanist cabal. Yeah, and Robert says, I find it very strange that they would want to bring an AI with a so-called consciousness to the public when we all know that knowledge is power, and that is something that the controllers will never allow the public to have unless it's something that suits them. And yes, he says, it will not have consciousness as they want to sell it to the people for the reasons you stated. That will go against what the Cabal wants. It is again an AI controlled by a more advanced AI, as one depends on the other to guide human perception. They will then again deify the machine as if it were a deity, where whatever the machine says is the truth. They will create that mentality in people, thus guiding the values and with them society. Everything new and wonderful that they give to the public will always have a dark side in order to control them more. Just notice that if children can do their homework in seconds, what do they learn? They just become robots, incapable of thinking for themselves. And here Yasky is taking the conversation now to how, what we always say, that the Taygetans go back to the basics, to the simple, natural. And here Yasky is explaining that at school, even it's not school, it's on board of Toleka, on their ship, the Taygetans have organized activities, like school-like activities for Marin, SWARUU, and for Yasky, where they go and they learn different things. And here Yasky is explaining that even there at the school, they write everything themselves. She says, Mari and I end up writing and taking notes with a mechanical pencil essentially, on a pad of paper. Using pencil and paper makes you think. Take responsibility for your notes. It makes you own the information. That is why, as with many things, and as you have been told for over 5 years, Taygeta is going back to the simple or the basics. Too much technology where it should not go becomes invasive and against people. So much technology no longer serves you, you serve it. Okay, and here we'll go to the topic of the etheric bombs. Because to this I'm responding, I agree with you, Yaski, 100%. However, about that, heating up the house with wood, firewood, for example, all the time, every day, like some of the Taygetans they do that. I feel that's a bit impractical. That's just too much. I'll be too lazy to do that. It sounds nice, it's something special, but not all the time. And she says, there are better ways, like etheric bombs. But firewood is used in any case, but it's stinky and impractical. Well, stinky, I like it. Robert also said that he likes that smell. Of course, it's nice, and many Taygetans use that. But it's, impractical. So I'm asking, what is that? The etheric bomb. Okay, and this is what Yaski says. I don't know what to call something that has no name on Earth. It is a device that is like a chimney, but causes an atmospheric load differential between the base and the top, which heats the air in the tubes between the top and the bottom, and ends up radiating that heat into the house in winter and cools the house in summer. Same device. Same principle as the atmospheric earth load differential collectors called pyramids. It is free energy. Basically, this device draws energy or atmospheric electrical charge down the tubes to the ground. With its passage, it heats the air in the tubes that is used to heat the house. I don't know if I'm making myself clear, she says. There is opposite charge in the atmosphere than in the ground when guiding the charge from the atmosphere to the ground. Concentrating it in these tubes heats the air as it passes through. So these are the etheric bombs. This is how they heat their houses in winter, and this is how they cool their houses in the summer. So that's very cool. I think I'm definitely going to use that if I ever end up in Taygeta again, and maybe sometimes only the firewood, because of course to have a fireplace is very nice. Okay, well, now someone also from Robert's public asked about the beginnings of the Taygetan civilization. Can we go into that? Did they evolve? Did they always have technology? And when we mentioned this subject to Yaski, I mean, this could be such a huge subject. It's not even for one answer or for one video. This could be a series of videos. This is just too much. So she answered here in a small, in a short way, and there it goes. Okay, she says, this is about the question if they always had the technology. Yes, Taygeta civilization was founded with interstellar technology already during the Great Expansion. It is said that it was 850,000 years ago. I differ. I insist that there is no comparative frame with which to measure that time. There cannot be. It's just a long time ago in perception. So Robert is asking, so that word you evolved, is that word even right in this case? She says, only in the aspect that the genetics of the people who arrived were contained, and with that, population that is almost entirely Caucasian in appearance has remained. Oh, Robert says, so there are other appearances, non-Caucasian? She says, all appearances of the Lyrian race exist throughout the galaxy at least. Variants of appearance that are known on Earth, and other variants that do not exist on Earth, like for example the exaggeratedly white people, Solatians, or the orange. Solatians are also Pleiadians. Just that in Taygeta, a Caucasian group arrived, and it has remained that way. Okay, Robert comments, and it is understood that if they came to Taygeta, they already had the technology, because they were not natives there. She says, Taygetans had been wandering around other planets for many thousands of years, rhetorically speaking, all before they found the planets ERRA and the superhabitable planet Temer. Superhabitable planet is one that surpasses Earth in its ability to support humanomorph or Lyrian life. Examples of these are Temer and Alfrata. Okay, so if they were wandering around all these different planets, did they used to live inside ships like the Andromedans? Asks Robert. She says no, rather they just used ships to go looking for new places to establish settlements, sometimes peacefully and sometimes being chased during the so-called Orion Wars, popularly expressed in the Star Wars series. Okay, Robert is saying, so these planets are abundant, right? The ones they found. Yes, he says, yes, they are quite abundant. And yes, they are highly sought after because they are extra comfortable for human life. That is, low dense but oxygen-rich atmosphere and rather perfect density. Low gravity at 0.8 g. They always say we here have a bit too much gravity. Little, not gravity meaning flow of consciousness, what we always talk about. Gravity meaning, us being heavy here on Earth. Little variable climate and temperature staying in perfect and comfortable ranges for human life. Also, geologically stable and with little or no hostile fauna and flora. Fertile soil. Okay, and Robert is asking, so in Taygeta, you have settled there forever? I mean, you. Yes, he is not really Taygetan, but you know what I mean. They have settled there forever and they are well there? Yes, he says they are very fine there. And there are no plans to leave ERRA or Temer. Everything is peaceful there. And they are already settled and have been there for a long time. So, as I said, this topic of the Taygetan history in the beginnings of settlement and settlements, that could be for another series of videos. But for now, that's the answer I have here. Short conversation. Next topic, and here also we have Robert's question. Someone in his public is asking, can several immersed soul signals be in one body here on Earth? Several souls in one body. Is that possible? Okay, yes, he says it is possible. But in that case, it would be multiple personality situation. And that is something that has more to do with parasitization by lower astral entities. But the technology would allow it. It is just frequency management and synchronization between the machine and the receiving body. The question would be, to what end? For what purpose? Now, going in a bit reverse, she says, slightly another issue. Not various souls having one body, but various bodies being one soul before in the past. And this is called soul fragmentation. And I would like to make a separate video just on this to deepen this subject. Actually, this is something that we have already discussed with Yaskim more or less. And she says it's a simple subject, but I would like to really deepen this and understand what causes different souls paths come out of one base soul. Because this is what she says, slightly another issue. It is known that multiple people today may have had the same identity in the past. For example, multiple people report having been Napoleon, That is possible, and it has been known to happen. It's soul fragmentation, and it's how new souls are created. That is, Napoleon was an individual, and from there, many people, for various reasons, share the same past life, all having been Napoleon before. Another example, here we are 3 SWARUUs. All 3 of us have been SWARUU in the past. So this is something that before having this experience with SWARUUs and with Taygetans, I have never considered. I always imagine, well, if that person has memories of being George Washington, then only that person could have been George Washington. There couldn't be multiple people remembering that life. But apparently that's how it works, that's how it is. It's totally possible. However, here with the example of SWARUUs having been a SWARUU, this is a bit different because all of these SWARUUs, Minerva, Athena, and Yaschi, are from different timelines. So even though they have memory of being SWARUU, that SWARUU memory is maybe slightly different because they come from a different timelines. So this is what Robert brings up, and Yaschi says, yes. What happens is that there is another level there, which is multiple timelines. And at the same time, originating from the same point or base person. And at the same time, we all are a base persons for what will come later. That's why it's a 5th dimension in addition to 5th density. Because there is more mess of levels of understanding and levels of perception consciousness here. To understand it, you cannot use the standard human 3D linear perception. And here Robert makes a comment and he says that that's why people need to watch all the videos in order to understand all these different topics. Because he says, taking the SWARUUians as an example, if you don't know who they are, you're not going to understand a lot of this info. And here we're already going into a different subject, and Yaschi says, well, that's exactly the problem that we've always faced. Because people sometimes make judgments by looking at specific video or incomplete information because maybe they don't have time or patience to study the bulk of the information. And sometimes that's what you have to do in order to understand a specific information. And then here she goes into the topic of multiverses, and she uses this as an example. She says, the people sees us talking about the universe as just one universe, not multiverses. And she says, I do not attack the concept of multiverses. I see that it is valid, of course. However, that is not everything, nor does it explain everything that goes on. She says, we have been attacked because we say that there is just one universe, one whole. She says, but isn't that just logical? I mean, if you have a multiverse and another universe and another universe, and you put it together, what do you get? Well, some say it's an omniverse. Well, that's where I guess, Yaschi says, omniverse is the same as the universe, the word that I use. So for her, all these different universes, what people say multiverses, for her it's just combining into one huge universe. This is just one universe. And here Robert says, it's that there is only one. Yes, that includes everything. Just as we, people, are all one, right? Even though we are individual people. He says, Robert, this multiverse thing is very simplistic. It is the idea of being something and not the whole. From the most expanded view, there is only one universe. From the perception of someone with less consciousness, and it is not an insult, this is Robert saying, there are multiverses, because it is what they understand in their life experience, like with the Big Bang theory. They don't understand the concept of eternity, So they invent something like that, like because something had to create the universe. So it's the same here. We always have, we cannot imagine that it's all just one whole. So we are like putting it into different portions. This universe, another universe, another universe, multiverses. But Yasky combines them all into one big universe. So she says, that's right. What they say is that there are universes, that many universes come together and form a multiverse that comes together to form the omniverse. The argument is basically just semantics. That is, they could argue against me that I only say that there is one universe as if I were ignoring all the others. As if we were just talking about one universe and Yasky is not aware that there are others. No, she is aware of everything, and she is putting the label on all of that as just one universe. So she says, for me the word universe is the same as their omniverse. So I am not devalidating them, but they kind of devalidate us based on some limited understanding of what was said somewhere in one of the videos. So this was just part of the conversation we had about this topic. Okay, now let's take a few seconds of break, and now next topic is totally different. This is the nature of mini topics. They go all over the place. Bacterias. And this is a question from Dr. Alex in Spain. And the question exactly is, I'm going to read this and then I'm going to read Yasky's answer to this. Here, a theory is circulating more and more strongly against the cause of diseases by viruses and bacteria. I'm very clear on viruses, but I do believe that bacteria are living beings that are independent of our body but live in balance with us. The theory says that bacteria are fragments of our cells broken due to some disease. I do believe that bacteria can cause diseases, but only under specific conditions, but never that they are debris of cells. Okay, Yasky's answer. Well, in my opinion, based on Taygeta's medical science, no body, in this case the human body, cannot function without bacteria. It could even be seen as part of the body itself. If all bacteria could be removed from a body, leaving only the body's own cells, the body would die in a short time. I would disagree with the idea that they live in equilibrium, but it is an effort to describe what happens. It is not really an equilibrium, rather it is a symbiosis where both sides benefit. And it is logical that when something happens to the body that takes it out of its normal functions, the amount of bacteria contained in it can be increased, causing what is known as an infection. However, the same bacteria, let's say of the skin, act as a barrier against other microorganisms that could invade them. In the case of a direct and objective observation, I do understand the argument that the bacteria come from the body itself. I would not quite agree with the word waste, or debris, waste of the body, although necessary and harmonious bacteria would feed on such waste from the cells of a healthy body. Therefore, one could argue that the bacteria themselves are wastes of the body. But I would like to think of them more as being part of the body itself, another function of the body, that they are a metabolic tool even, as in the case of the bacteria we all have in the gut and colon, that without them digestion and the breakdown of nutrients would not be possible. Many of the same enzymes needed to break down and extract nutrients from foods come from the same bacteria present there. So yes, it makes sense what they say, that they can be seen as waste from the body, although that term is reductionist and even insulting to the bacteria that are our friends and make life itself possible. Okay, and here I'm asking about the bacteria outside. Those do cause diseases, those that are not part of the body. Yes, he says, yes, I do see the case of external invasions of microorganisms of the bacterial type. However, they would only affect a body when it is in a vulnerable state or out of balance for other reasons. In itself, the DNA of any being already contains rates and data of basically all existing bacteria and microorganisms, more so today. However, in the past, when there were more isolated indigenous people, there were cases of strong contagions with subsequent catastrophic results for these communities. And there are also many macroparasites that have beneficial functions for the bodies. However, there are also parasites that give nothing in return for what they receive from the body, such as fleas, lice, and most, not all, intestinal worms. Robert is saying, so showering 3 times a day is not good because you remove a lot of bacteria from the skin. Yes, he says, I do not recommend not showering because bacteria and contaminants accumulate on the skin. For example, they get out of control in the sweat. It is not only the bacteria on the skin itself, the friendly ones, but the invaders, because they are everywhere. So if you don't shower often enough, basically once a day or more, then these invading bacteria will build up, causing skin problems. Also, the whole open pores thing is nonsense because inside those pores are legions of bacteria that are friendly to our skin, that care for and protect against these outside invaders. Okay, so this is it. I managed to keep this within the mini topics. I hope it's useful to you, especially those of you who are interested in medicine and health. Okay, now we're going to jump to a totally different thing, and this is goblins. Goblins, that's right, goblins living in the forests and other natural locations like that. So here Robert is asking, why can't goblins be seen? And also Taygetans, why can't they see goblins? Yes, he says, because they are in a different vibration, but they are there anyway. Sometimes when we land in the forest, if you could see how many of them look out to see Susie, so many that we better leave. And now here Robert is asking, because this is something people don't understand, because it was said that if you are, let's call it 5 density, you can see all the densities below you, but the lower density cannot see what's above. So why can't Taygetans, for example, see the goblins, supposedly in 4D or somewhere? And here the answer is this. Well, they are like a scale of sound. Okay, because Robert is saying the frequencies are not stepped exactly, are they? And Yaski says, well, they are like a scale of sounds, frequency in the end. It goes from small or few oscillations to bigger and faster. That's all she said here, but I do remember when she mentioned some time ago that the world in which they live, those elves or fairies, goblins and all that, it's kind of like, it's another frequency, but it's also like in a world to the side. So in order to see them, you need to, reach that frequency, okay? But also you kind of have to move to the side, like to the lateral avenue of worlds. It's kind of like you are in an elevator. There are 2 elevators in the building, and you are going up and down one elevator, but you're still not going to see what's there. You need to jump to the elevator on the side, something like that. And here Robert is asking, why do they have human morph bodies? Would they fall under the heading of cryptozoology? And yes, he says, yes, they look like the one in Harry Potter. I would say that from the human point of view, they are seen as mythological, They don't even reach cryptozoological entities. And they are around where you are. She's saying this to Robert. Finland here, lots of woods, in the woods. Are they like this? Robert is asking. She says yes, less Hollywood, uglier, but they would be recognized. With smaller eyes, as if they were malevolent, although they are not necessarily so. It depends on each one, of course. And what about their height? They are less than 1 meter. There are, of course, many species. There are smaller ones, but you don't see them very much. The most common ones are about 60 centimeters tall, sometimes a little more. She says, I have seen most of them walk with a stooped gait, but not all of them. I'm not sure about the translation here. I was from Spanish, by the way. Like this. Are they affected by temperatures? Yes, because we have seen them tucked in or with a lot of clothes on them. And are they not affected by our collective unconscious? Yaski says yes, but not much, because they have their own. They are only affected when people, for example, start knocking down the trees. Robert says, so they see what we see and more, but we cannot see them. Yes, he says, yes, exactly. But I'm also sure that sometimes they cannot see humans either, only sometimes. And here Robert is asking how Yaski sees them. Is it blurry? Like, how do they look? She says, I have to concentrate, but I can see them fine. Tina, on the other hand, which is Athena's SWARUU, did use Susie's technology to see them outside the ship. Besides, they tend to throw stones. Robert says, so they don't interfere with human life. Yaski, not usually, but they can interfere a lot. They can even be dangerous. I do not recommend making them angry. And Robert's asking, maybe they can leave footprints in the snow because they have gravity, weight, and your ships can locate them that way. Yaski says, yes, that is the most common way to detect them. Footprints in the snow or mud, bare feet, or impossibly small shoes. Sometimes they look like small, deformed feet, so people think it was a small child, and that the footprint was deformed by the weather. But it is not necessarily so. Obviously, it could be a child, of course, but it could also be a goblin. Also, children under 3 years of old usually do not wander in the woods alone. Okay, so that's a very interesting piece of information there. I wonder if you now are going to be looking around on your walks in the forest, maybe talking to them. I don't know what makes them angry exactly. Yes, he says, do not make them angry. I guess, like it was mentioned, cutting down the trees and, knocking things over, destroying their habitat. But other than that, I think, it's very curious. It's very interesting to be able to see them or communicate with them. And I'm sure you have instances in life where things were knocked over, or maybe a stone fell on your head, a little one, or a leaf or something. Maybe a leaf not, because the leaves fall all the time anyway. But, something that is not explainable. So it could be one of those beings. Okay, now, someone asked about Voynich manuscript and whether Yaski knows anything about it. Now, for those of you who don't know, let me just go very fast to Wikipedia. I'm just going to read one sentence. What is this Voynich manuscript? So it is an illustrated codex, handwritten in an unknown script. Okay, and the origins, authorship, purpose of the manuscript, it is all debated. It is not deciphered really from what I know. And the manuscript itself, the paper on which it was written, I think it dates back using carbon-14, which is totally nonsense according to Taygetans, but it dates back to around 1400. and it was named after Wilfred Voynich, a book dealer who purchased it in 1912. So let's see what Yaski says about this mysterious text. And, well, this is what she says. Apparently, that manuscript has to do with the intraterrestrial world. However, some plants and animals described there are congruent to multiple planets outside this solar system. It would be quite an investigation to know which is from where. It is quite doubtful where it came from, but it is highly probable that it was a copy or the lost original of a book or a series of books in the possession of the Vatican. In other words, they are banned texts that don't fit the narrative and were leaked at some point in the past. That is, they wish it didn't exist, and that book was in the Vatican archives. But who wrote it? Yaski says, I don't know. As far as I know, Taygetans don't know either. And it seems to be a human transcription taken from another, probably reptilian. The writing itself seems to be a transcription or translation into Romance languages of something else. And I'm asking, reptilians filtering knowledge, positive ones? They may be positive, but I see it more likely that it was leaked at some point in the past. Or someone hand-copied another book that they had to return, book belonging to another race. Since it is the only one in existence, it is assumed to be the original. But since the content is congruent with not very terrestrial things, from my position I can conclude that it is more likely a hand copy of something else, text, material, or book. That's it, that's all I have on this little topic of the Voynich manuscript. Now, 2 more topics left. Now, let's start with this one. This is about the cricket powder in food, supposedly now that they are putting in food. This was because Matthias informed me that on January 20th this year, the law was passed that now the food companies in Europe can put that homemade cricket powder in food, in whatever. And it is also confirmed that this powder contains cyanide. So I asked Yaski what she thinks about that. And she said, they sure used it to kill the crickets themselves. Yes, I heard about that, but not the cyanide part. Now here Robert is commenting, they say they are supplying the protein we are missing from the meat, or something like that. And Yaski says, I understand that there are countless doctors who say that they are useless as food. They have no protein elements, no nutrients, they are toxic. They promote physical damage problems in the intestine, such as leaky gut. They will never tell you that it has no nutrients. Also, not all proteins are usable, absorbable, or useful to humans. For me, it's getting people into the idea of scarcity, that everything is so bad in terms of food that even that is necessary. And with that, they will accept other agendas such as climate change, carbon footprint, and more social control. So, yeah, and about that cyanide being a poison, she says, yes, I know, and it will extend to other places in the world. The destruction of the food is underway. So, if you are in Europe, and as Yaski says, this might and will extend into the world, but for now, if you are in Europe, you have to look at the ingredients and the tags. This can be researched online, so investigate this, see what kind of ingredient you have to be looking at. So, try to avoid those products. Now, let's finish with something not so dire. And this is a question, again, was from someone in the English world, about that term 440,000 light years away, that the Pleiades are there, 440,000 light years away. Is that even correctly stated? So Yaski here laughed and she says, in fact, it is not. Ha ha ha. We have been using it for the same reason we use things like 3D and 5D as a reference. Light is not a constant, as SWARUU says. So it makes no sense to measure things with that. What the ETs use are frequency maps, and distances are only useful as between planets. Well, then I say, how could this be measured correctly? Well, she says, that's why we still use light years, because there is no other reference for humans. Again, there would be no point of perception with mutual agreements that would make us understand the same terms and definitions. And I said, well, how you frame it? How do you decide where you are? Where are the Pleiades according to the Taygetan terminology? And she says, we say logical positions like in a star chart, constellations and all, understandable for humans. But we refer to distances in terms of the differences between frequencies between each place. That is, it depends on the mathematics and the interactions between the energies of each place on the map. We do not use references or yardsticks because there cannot be any. The only exact thing are the frequencies, leaving the objective maps only as interpretations that help the perception of the organic mind of each one of us. And they are not real, they are not for real calculations, much less for navigation. And Robert is saying, but using an approximate calculation, would that be those 440 light years? Or maybe that's just what humans themselves invented. They gave that number. She says, it's just that otherwise it is not understood. Nor can I go explaining all that every time I have to say an interstellar distance, because I would be going away from the other topic I was trying to give. ETs know that light is not a constant, and that its speed and trajectory is deformed by a myriad of factors. It is simply not used. So keep that in mind when we use 440 light years away. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for sticking with me until the end, until here, this moment of this mini topic. Thank you very much for your support. Hello to all the newcomers to the channel as well. Make sure you subscribe to SWARUU's channel, who is one of the Svarunians on the ship, and this is the first official Svarunian channel that is directly created by them themselves. And also make sure to subscribe to Zael of ERRA, which is in Spain, well, it only says Zael, who is a Taygetan man and who just recently opened the channel, and who is also sharing directly from the ship information from his perspective. So this is all very, 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 very exciting. We have been doing this for like 5 years, and I don't think I have ever, maybe, I don't remember, imagined that we would get to this point where they will be sharing this information themselves and becoming, it's coming closer. Let's see what happens next year, next 5 years, what will bring. It's all very unpredictable all the time. So anyway, thank you very much. Greetings to everybody in Toleka, and greetings to you on Earth. Bye-bye, and see you next time.